Welcome back to our journey through the Gospel of Matthew. Today, we're diving into chapter 17, a chapter filled with incredible moments of divine revelation, profound faith, and practical lessons for our daily lives. The chapter opens with one of the most remarkable events in Jesus' earthly ministry, the Transfiguration. Just 6 days after Peter's great confession, Jesus takes his inner circle, Peter, James, and John, up a high mountain. Something extraordinary happens. He is transfigured before them. His face shines like the sun, and his clothes become as white as the light itself. This wasn't just a change in appearance. It was a glimpse of his divine glory, a peek behind the veil of his humanity. As if this wasn't enough, two towering figures from the Old Testament appear, Moses and Elijah. Moses, the great lawgiver, and Elijah, the great prophet, are seen talking with Jesus. This is a powerful moment, showing that the law and the prophets all pointed to Jesus. He is the fulfillment of everything God had promised. Peter, ever impulsive and overwhelmed by the moment, suggests building 3 shelters, one for Jesus, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. He wants to prolong this glorious experience. But God has a more important message. While Peter is still speaking, a bright cloud overshadows them, and a voice from the cloud declares, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." Hear the hymn. This is the Father's own testimony. The disciples fall on their faces in terror, but Jesus comes to them, touches them, and tells them not to be afraid. When they look up, it's just Jesus. The vision was a confirmation of Jesus' divinity and a command to listen to him above all else. As they come down the mountain, Jesus instructs them to keep this vision a secret until after his resurrection. This leads to a question from the disciples. They ask about the scribes' teaching that Elijah must come first. Jesus confirms this, but reveals that Elijah has already come in the person of John the Baptist. Tragically, the people didn't recognize him and mistreated him, just as they will mistreat the Son of Man. This was a difficult truth for the disciples to grasp, but it highlighted the theme of rejection that Jesus would face. When they rejoin the crowd at the bottom of the mountain, they're met with a scene of human desperation and spiritual failure. A man kneels before Jesus, pleading for his son who is terribly afflicted, often falling into fire and water. The father had brought his son to the disciples, but they couldn't heal him. You can feel the father's heartbreak and the disciples' frustration. Jesus' response is telling, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you?" This wasn't just directed at the crowd, but also at his own disciples. He then calls for the boy, rebukes the demon, and the child is healed instantly. This powerful act stands in stark contrast to the disciples' inability. Later, in private, the disciples ask Jesus why they failed. His answer is direct and profoundly important for us today. Because of your unbelief. He then gives them an incredible promise. He says if they had faith as small as a mustard seed, they could command a mountain to move, and nothing would be impossible for them. A mustard seed is tiny, but it grows into a large tree. Jesus is saying that even a little faith, if it's genuine and placed in the all-powerful God, can accomplish extraordinary things. He adds that some spiritual battles, like this one, require an even deeper level of spiritual discipline, prayer, and fasting. The chapter then shifts tone as Jesus once again predicts his own death and resurrection. He tells his disciples that the Son of Man will be betrayed and killed, but will be raised on the 3rd day. This news fills them with sorrow. They still struggled to understand how the glorious Messiah they saw on the mountain could suffer such a fate. Finally, we see a fascinating and practical incident in Capernaum. The collectors of the temple tax approach Peter and ask if his master pays the tax. Peter, likely wanting to represent Jesus well, quickly says, "Yes." But when he gets home, Jesus already knows what happened. He uses it as a teaching moment. He asks Peter, "From whom do earthly kings collect taxes? From their own children or from others?" Peter correctly answers, "From others." Jesus then explains, "Then the children are free. As the Son of God, He is exempt from paying a tax for his Father's house. However, Jesus follows this declaration of freedom with an act of wisdom and grace. He says, "Notwithstanding, lest we should offend them, double quotes, and then performs a small, unique miracle." He tells Peter to go fishing. The very first fish he catches will have a coin in its mouth, enough to pay the tax for both of them. This story is incredible. It shows Jesus' authority over creation, but also his humility and his consideration for others. He chose to set aside his rights to avoid causing unnecessary offense and to live peaceably within the culture. So, what can we take away from Matthew 17? We see the divine glory of Jesus, the necessity of listening to his voice, and the power that comes from even a tiny seed of faith. We are reminded that following Christ involves both mountaintop experiences and valleys of struggle. And we learn the importance of humility and wisdom, knowing when to stand on our rights and when to set them aside for the sake of love and peace. This chapter is a powerful call to fix our eyes on Jesus, to trust him completely, and to live out our faith with prayer, discipline, and wisdom. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this deep dive into Matthew 17 has encouraged you. Don't forget to share, and subscribe for more studies like this one. See you next time.